You've identified your beneficiaries in your will. But a will isn't the only way beneficiaries benefit, and those other ways could make your will a write-off. How? Jim Lineweaver is here to give us the benefit of his wisdom. Jim is a certified financial planner professional with the Lineweaver Financial Group. So welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So what are these other ways that beneficiaries can benefit?
What ends up happening is, you can put beneficiary designations on multiple financial products now. And it can be anything from even just a bank account that you have a savings or checking for transfer and death, all the way to your IRAs and life insurance and things along that nature. But what you find is that if you don't set these up correctly, there can be horrendous mistakes, not only in the form of probate, but there could be a serious consequences for taxes as well. Because if it's any qualified retirement plan, the IRS is going to come knocking on the door, and it differentiates between how quickly all that money would have to be paid to the IRS in the form of taxes, or could that be stretched out? So you really have to make sure that you're doing this carefully. Wow,
okay. So what tips do you have for safely naming beneficiaries?
Well, one of the easiest ways is maybe to come up with what we shouldn't do first.
Okay.
Because there's some big ones out there that you shouldn't do. Don't leave anything directly to a minor, because what ends up happening is then they are not going to be able to control that account because they're not the legal age of majority, which is 18 in the state of Ohio. So if they're under that age, make sure that in some of your documents you have appointed a guardianship, which would be able to look over and be able to take care of things on that child's behalf, including inheriting money or assets. Another one would be actually dealing with young adults. So you can say, hey, well, I'm a legal age of majority now. I'm 18. I can handle a lot of money, right? No, you can't. Or at least I wouldn't want my kids to handle that.
No, me either.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're 18 to maybe 30, there's a big learning curve there, and I've seen horror stories where kids have dropped out of school, not going to college, they got this inheritance, they're spending it recklessly, not what you originally intended. So what you want to make sure you're doing is maybe putting some handcuffs around these documents to make sure if the kids are going to receive money, they're going to be given some guidelines, or if I'm best thing to do is sit down and talk to them ahead of time. But sometimes you don't get that chance. Things happen unexpectedly. So be careful with young adults. And then lastly, you really have to be careful with disabled children. What ends up happening is if they're on any federal or state entitlement program where they're receiving money because maybe they never earned it or they got disabled later in life, whatever it is, what ends up happening is they could be kicked off that program if they receive a direct inheritance. So a lot of times it makes sense to set up a special needs trust for them.
Okay, and you have beneficiaries, but there's also something called contingent beneficiaries. What do they get?
Well, it depends on how you set things up. But this is where we need to study a little Latin, because what ends up happening is you can set it up in two different ways. And I thought the best thing to explain it to your viewers would be through an example. So the first one is called per stirpes. And so let's say you have 2 kids, and then one of your children has 2 kids as well, so you have 2 grandkids, but unfortunately one of your kids has passed away. So what ends up happening is under per stirpes, if you pass away, then what's going to happen is that portion that was going to your deceased child, that'll pass down to their kids or your grandkids, and then the other 50% will go to your surviving child.
Which seems fair.
That does seem fair. You're not cutting anybody out. Well, if you jump over to the next one, which is called per capita, and all of a sudden you pass away, again, the deceased child is already gone. What ends up happening is 100% of that money will go to your surviving child, and you have cut out your other grandkids, and that could create a lot of problems down the road for you. So you may not know about it after the fact, but somebody's going to be pretty upset with you.
Probably so.
Yeah, okay. So you got to be really careful how you structure these.
And some people name their estate or their trust as the beneficiary of retirement or IRAs. Is that the right thing to do?
No. If you put your estate down, this could be horrendous, because not only is there no direction, it's going to be going through probate, and then a lot of people are going to have access and try to fight over this stuff. So that's a big no-no. But when it comes to trusts and properly naming kids and stretch-out provisions and all that kind of stuff, it can get pretty complicated, and you want to make sure that these trusts and stuff are set up correctly. So it's, you really got to dot your I's and cross your T's.
And it is complicated, so you have help, right?
We do. We have an education program coming up. It'll be no charge for your viewers, but that's where we're really going to dive into these details and stuff. So we have 2 of them set up. One's on Tuesday, May 16th at 6 p.m. Another one's on Thursday, May 18th at 1 p.m. at our Valley View office. And they do fill up fast, so we'd encourage your viewers, if they're interested in this topic, to give us a call as soon as they can. Okay.
Great information as always. You want your beneficiaries to benefit in the best way possible, but that takes careful planning. For help, attend one of Jim's complimentary seminars or give him a call. The number's next.
For more information, call the Lineweaver Financial Group at 1-888-313-4009 or click to www.lineweaver.net.